My name is Eli Travers. I've been with the U.S. Forest Service for just over 18 years now. That's 18 seasons of search and rescue calls, missing hikers, bear attacks, overturned canoes, you name it. I've worked in half a dozen regions across the country. But most of my time, my real time, was spent in western North Carolina, in a stretch of dense, ancient woodland the service calls District 12. But the locals, they have another name for it. They call it Black Hollow. Most of the younger crowd don't even know where that name comes from. You won't find it on maps, no signs pointing to it. Hell, half the GPS units can't hold a signal past the ridge. But those who live nearby, they don't forget. They don't hike there. They don't camp there. And they don't talk about what happens if you do. I was 35 when this happened. It was late October, the kind of cold that doesn't slap you so much as seep into your sleeves. The trees were nearly bare, just jagged shadows scratching against the sky. I was assigned a solo patrol that weekend. Nothing serious, just clearing fallen brush, checking on trail markers, making sure no one was out, lighting fires with deer season creeping in. I remember the quiet, not peaceful quiet, thick quiet. No birds, no breeze, just the dull crunch of my boots over leaf litter. Even my breathing felt too loud. About 3 hours into my route, I stopped for a drink at this outcrop we use as a checkpoint. That's when I heard it. A scream, far off, maybe half a mile, high-pitched, human. But there was something off about it. It didn't peak like a person yelling. It stretched, like someone had been screaming for a while before I caught it. I stood there, dead still, waiting for an echo. There wasn't one. Now I've heard foxes, coyotes, even mountain lions up close. This wasn't that. It had no pattern, no repeat, and worst of all, it sounded close, but there was no direction to it, like it was bleeding through the trees, from everywhere. I radioed base, no response. Figured maybe I was in a dead spot, so I marked the outcrop with flag tape and pushed toward where I thought the scream came from. 10 minutes later, the signal bars came back, full strength. But when I tried the radio again, all I got was static. And then, I heard my own voice, coming through the speaker. Travers, reporting from Black Hollow. Trail marker 28 confirmed, moving north by northwest. It wasn't a recording. It was word for word what I'd said earlier that morning. I stood frozen, staring at the receiver in my hand. I hadn't touched the mic. I hadn't keyed in. And yet, there it was, my own voice playing back like a tape someone had queued up. Then, without warning, the audio cut. A low click. Then, a new voice. Slow. Male. Too garbled to fully make out, but there was one sentence I still remember like it was tattooed in my head. You shouldn't be here. That's all it said. Just that. And then static again. I wanted to believe it was a ranger pulling a sick prank, a hacker maybe, piggybacking the signal. But we use secured channels. There's no cross-traffic, and certainly no archives of voice recordings. I pressed on, because stupidly, back then, I still thought I was in control. Around an hour later, maybe less, I lost track of time. I came to a clearing I'd never seen before. It wasn't marked on the old maps, and I knew that section like the back of my damn hand. But this space, it was open, cleared, 10, maybe 15 yards across, and in the center, nailed to a tree, was a deer carcass, split from throat to stomach, skinned clean, no entrails, no blood, but the eyes were still there, clouded over, still facing outward. Worse, its hooves had been crossed, like someone posed it, like they wanted it seen, and around the base of the tree, scratches, long, deep grooves, like someone had carved with stone. Not tools, not human. I knelt down, ran my glove across one of the deeper marks. It was fresh, no moss, no debris. Something had been here recently, and that's when I smelled it. Smoke, just faint, but sharp. campfire smoke. Close. I turned, scanned the tree line. Nothing. Then behind me, another scream. Closer this time, but shorter, like a yelp. And then silence again. I didn't run. Not yet. Instead, I raised the radio again, tried to call it in. Nothing. But this time, the static had rhythm. Like breathing, in and out, fast, too fast. And under that, I swear to you, I heard whispering. Not in English, not in any language I recognized. Just a low, wet sound, like syllables chewed through teeth. That's when I left. Didn't log it, didn't document it, didn't even take a photo. I just got out of there. It took me nearly 3 hours to hike back to base, and every damn step of the way, I felt watched. Like eyes flicking between trees, like movement behind my shoulder. But every time I turned, nothing. When I finally made it back to the truck, the mirror had been turned. Not broken, just flipped downward, like someone had been sitting in my seat, waiting. Eli still works for the service, but he refuses to patrol that region anymore. He's transferred stations 4 times in 5 years. Says it follows him in dreams. The breathing, the whispering. He never told his supervisor, never filed an official incident. But once, during an interview, he was asked what the scariest part of the job was. He didn't pause, didn't blink. All he said was, hearing my own voice say something I never said. Some places were never meant to be charted, some trails never meant to be walked, and sometimes the forest doesn't want you dead. It just wants you lost. Subscribe to MindFuel if you haven't already. These are real encounters, the kind of stories you don't hear in the daylight. And trust me, you'll want to stay close for the next one, because what's hiding under the bed isn't waiting to be seen. It's waiting for you to close your eyes. It happened in Washington State, Cascade Mountains, late spring. The man who told this story, a solo hiker, 29 years old, he didn't want his name shared. He'd been hiking that region for 6 years, off-grid, no phone, no tracking apps, just topo maps, compass, fire steel. He liked it quiet. Said the noise of normal life made his head feel like a jar of bees. But this trip changed something in him. He set out early, sun still behind the ridge. His breath fogged in front of him like a warning. There'd been reports of landslides in the area, so he took a narrow bypass trail, a switchback through pine that hadn't seen maintenance in years. 3 hours in, he heard footsteps behind him. Not birds, not deer, footsteps, slow, crunching gravel, faint, but steady. He figured it was another hiker, no big deal. So he glanced back and saw a man, standing still, about 40 yards back, upright, wearing a faded gray jacket and something that looked like a ranger's backpack, except he wasn't moving, not waving, not looking down, just standing there, arms at his side, too still. He didn't wave back, didn't want to engage. So he picked up pace, figured the guy would either pass or fall behind. 10 minutes later, he turned a corner on the trail, and the man was ahead of him. Not walking, waiting. Same spot, same posture, like he hadn't moved, like the forest had just rearranged itself around him. He slowed down, finally called out, "Hey, you all right?" No answer. Then he stepped forward, 1 step, another. "Hey man, are you okay? Are you hurt?" Still nothing. But this time, he was close enough to see the face. Or where the face should have been. Narrator. Slower now, a quiet breath between phrases. No eyes, no mouth, no nose, just smooth skin, like wax, like it had been erased. The man said, and his voice shakes every time he retells it, "It looked at me, even without eyes." He felt it. Something in his body knew. He was being watched by something with no way to see. His knees buckled, he stumbled back, and the man tilted his head. Slow. One side, then the other, like a curious dog, or someone listening to something you couldn't hear. Then, without a sound, the faceless figure stepped backward, 1 step, 2, and was gone behind a tree. Not turned, just faded behind it like a shadow, like the woods absorbed him. The hiker didn't run. He couldn't. His legs wouldn't listen. He stood there, 20 minutes, maybe longer, until the wind finally moved again, until the air stopped tasting like metal. He made it back to the trailhead by nightfall. Didn't stop, didn't rest, didn't drink. When he passed the ranger station gate, he looked back, just once, and saw something at the top of the tree line. A silhouette, tall, still, facing him. He hasn't hiked since, moved to the city. Says he can't walk through the aisles of a grocery store without checking behind each shelf. His friends say he changed. Talks slower now, sleeps with the closet light on, doesn't keep mirrors in the house, because once, just once, he saw his own reflection blink without him blinking. Some things in the woods don't want to hurt you. They just want you to know you're not alone, and they don't need a face to show you that. Subscribe to MindFuel. If you're still watching, still breathing steady, you're part of the few who stay through the silence. This isn't fiction. These are real stories, told by real people who wish they didn't have to remember. If you're drawn to the things you can't explain, to what watches us from the edge of the tree line, then subscribe. You won't want to miss the next one. This one came from a couple in Colorado, mid-20s, lived for road trips, backpacking gear in the back seat, GPS set for empty roads, and a 2-person tent they called home most weekends. The girl's name was Kat, her boyfriend, Dylan. Both used to hiking off trail. Both knew how to read stars for direction, but what they heard that night, what they felt, no compass could have prepared them for. It was early September. Air was cool, dry. They'd parked at the edge of a logging trail, about 5 miles off the nearest access road. No other campers, no signs of fresh fire pits, no vehicles, just them, a backpack stove, and the thinnest layer of nylon between them and the world. The first night passed like any other. Marshmallows. A Bluetooth speaker playing lo-fi until the battery tapped out. They fell asleep with laughter in their mouths. But the second night, it started with tapping, just past midnight. Wind was quiet, forest dead still. Then, tap. Software like a fingertip on plastic. Kat thought Dylan was joking, rolled over and whispered, "Cut it out." He was already facing her, eyes open, frozen. "I thought that was you," he whispered back. Then again, tap, tap, tap. Right by her ear, against the tent wall. They sat up, flashlight on, but the battery glitched, dimmed, pulsed, then steadied. The beam hit the side of the tent where the tapping came from, but nothing was there. Kat unzipped the flap, shined the light outside. No tracks, no movement, just leaves and dark. She zipped it back up, turned to Dylan, both of them trying to breathe evenly. Then, tap, tap. But this time from the opposite side of the tent. She spun the light around, hit nothing, no shadows, no branches, and then the taps came again. 3 spots at once, one behind her, one beside him, and one right above their heads. From inside the tent wall. Like fingers tracing along nylon, light, delicate, not knocking, feeling. Kat screamed. Dylan grabbed his boot and slammed the wall. Silence. No more tapping, just the sound of both of them breathing in quick, shallow bursts. They didn't sleep, just held on to each other until the sky turned gray. At first light, Dylan unzipped the tent and crawled out slow. Kat followed, clutching the flashlight even though the battery was nearly dead. They looked around. No footprints, no drag marks, not even a broken twig. But when Kat turned to pack up the gear, she stopped. because on the inside of the tent wall, right where her shoulder had been while she slept, was a handprint. Small, child-sized, pressed from inside. The nylon stretched just slightly, still cold to the touch, and dirt around the edges as if the hand had come from below, from underneath. They never camped again. Still travel, still hike. But they book cabins now, with walls, locks, and floors. Sometimes Kat says she still hears it. Not at night, not when she's dreaming. When she's home, washing her face, eyes closed, hands over the sink. She swears, every once in a while, she hears that soft sound again. Tap. Just once. On the wall behind her. Some things wait just outside the light, and some know how to reach inside. Subscribe to MindFuel. If that one gave you chills, you're starting to understand what this series is. These are the stories no one wants to remember, but once you hear them, they stay. And the next one, you'll want to watch with the lights on, because it doesn't happen in a forest, or in the mountains, or in the dark. It happens in a place that should be safe, a place meant for children. Some people say dogs can sense things we can't, that they know when someone's lying, when storms are coming, or when something unnatural is near. This story came from a man in Kentucky. He asked us not to share his last name, just that he's a veteran, used to strange noises, used to things that go bump at night. But what happened to him one summer night in 2019 was different, because the thing outside didn't scare him first. It scared his dog. He lived in a small, one-story cabin, right on the edge of the forest line. Nothing fancy, just him, his tools, and a dog named Jack. Now, Jack wasn't just any dog. German Shepherd mixed with something leaner, fast, loyal, protective. People in the area joked that Jack would bark at wind, loud, aggressive, sharp. If you so much as stepped near the fence, he'd let you know. That night, around 2:13 a.m., the man woke up suddenly, not from a sound, but from a lack of it. Total silence. No crickets, no frogs, no wind against the trees, and Jack wasn't snoring like usual. He turned over and saw the dog sitting straight up, ears pinned, eyes locked on the front door, body completely still, except for a slow tremble in his legs. Then the man heard it. Footsteps, heavy, measured, walking across the gravel just outside the cabin. Crunch, crunch, crunch. Then stop, right by the porch. He waited for Jack to bark, to lunge at the door like always. But the dog didn't move, didn't growl, didn't even blink. His tail tucked tight between his legs, mouth closed, chest rising and falling fast. The man whispered, "Jack?" No response. Just those eyes, still fixed on the door, like he was listening harder than the man ever could. Then the footsteps came again, but this time, they weren't circling the house. They were climbing. Onto the porch. One step, two, three. Wood creaking, board by board, the sound of weight. Real, heavy, right up to the door. Then, silence. The man reached under his bed, pulled out his revolver, kept it low, kept his breath even, didn't move toward the window, didn't speak, just waited. Jack slowly lay down on the floor, still staring, still silent. Then the footsteps started again, but not away from the door. Upper, onto the roof, one slow step after another. Boots, or something like boots, moving carefully, deliberately, across the metal sheets above his head. The sound echoed down through the beams, so loud it made his teeth ache. The man stood now, gun raised, listening, tracing the movement, over the bedroom above the hallway, then directly overhead. The footsteps stopped, and the weight settled, like it had crouched down, watching. He didn't move until morning. He stood there, under whatever was above him, for almost 3 hours. No sleep, no light, just the sound of his dog, still breathing hard on the floor. When dawn finally broke, he opened the front door, gun drawn, Jack behind him. There were no prints on the gravel, no broken branches, no scratches on the porch. But when he stepped out into the yard and looked up, he saw something on the tin roof, a dent, right above the bedroom. Fresh, deep, like knees had rested there for hours. He sold the house 3 weeks later, moved into town, apartment complex, security lights, second floor. Jack's still with him, but people say he's different now, doesn't bark anymore, not even at sirens, just stares at doors, waits, listens. And when it rains, when the roof gets loud, he crawls under the bed and won't come out until the storm has passed. Sometimes it's not about what you hear. It's about what your dog stops barking at and what that silence is trying to tell you. Subscribe to MindFuel. If you've made it this far, you've already started to notice the pattern. These stories don't just stick in your head, they follow you, into your sleep, into your hallway at night, into the moments where everything goes still. There's more, and what comes next is darker still. This one isn't from the woods, no dark basements, no camping trips. It happened inside a girl's home, a normal house, suburbia, streetlights, recycling bins. She was 16, living with her mom just outside of Springfield, a quiet street, no crime, no reason to lock the door during the day. They still had a landline, one of those plastic cordless phones with the little green screen. She only used it when her cell was dead, and that's what happened this night. Phone on 1%, charger missing. She was home alone, mom working night shift, kitchen lights off, only the TV glow in the living room, some reality show droning on. She wasn't even watching, just scrolling. Then the landline rang. She didn't think twice, just grabbed it off the counter. No caller ID, just private number. She pressed talk, and before she could say anything, a voice, raspy, cracked, like someone who hadn't used their throat in days, said her full name. "Is this Emily Rose Talbert?" She paused, frowned. "Who is this?" The voice ignored her, continued, slow, deliberate. "Mrs. Arnett, 3rd grade. She wore perfume. You sat at the back. You used to hum during spelling tests." The phone went quiet. Then, "Remember how she called you Miss Daydream?" Emily dropped the phone. Not on purpose. It just slid out of her hand. She stared at it on the floor, still connected, still active, still listening. She picked it up again with shaking hands. "Who are you?" she asked. "Why are you talking about my teacher?" That name, Mrs. Arnett, wasn't on Facebook, wasn't in any of her posts. Emily hadn't thought about her since she was 8. The voice came back, lower now. "You used to draw butterflies on your folders, purple ones. I liked those." She hung up, ran upstairs, locked herself in her bedroom. She texted her mom. "Someone just called the landline. Knows my name. My teacher's name." It was weird. Her mom didn't reply. She turned the TV off downstairs with the remote, stood in her dark room, listening, no footsteps, no knocks, just the dull hum of the refrigerator below. Then the landline rang again. She didn't answer, just stood frozen, watching it blink. 5 rings. Then it stopped. She waited. 10 minutes passed. 15. Then her phone buzzed. It was a text message. Not from her mom, not from any contact, just a number. No name, no icon. The message said, "You look scared." That's when she noticed. Her bedroom door was cracked open. She always shut it, and she remembered. She had locked it. She didn't move, didn't breathe. Then, from down the hall, the landline rang again. She waited, let it ring. Then the voicemail picked up, and she heard it, his voice, on speaker, low, right next to the phone base in the hallway. Emily, your second-grade hamster, was named Crayola. You cried when it died. Your mom never told you, but she found it behind the radiator. It didn't just fall asleep. Silence. Then, "I'm watching you," from the hallway. She ran, out the window, barefoot into the neighbor's yard, called the police from their kitchen phone. Officers arrived 10 minutes later, found no one, no footprints in the hall, nothing stolen. But when they checked the call logs, there was no incoming number, no trace, and the voicemail was blank, empty, just silence. But Emily still remembers every word, every rasp, every pause, every name. She hasn't answered a phone in 4 years. Some callers don't need your number. Some just need your name. And once they say it out loud, you never really forget their voice again. Subscribe to MindFuel. These aren't just stories. They're warnings, whispers of something just beneath the surface of the everyday. They remind you that even in normal places, with lights on, doors locked, and phones silenced, you can still hear the wrong voice at the worst time. And the next chapter brings us to the edge of something far worse. Some places just feel off. They hum a little when you're alone. Not from pipes, not from electricity, but from something in the walls, something watching. But sometimes, the thing watching is you.